Good morning. This is Christiana Ellis coming back for my second video of December 20th, 2015. This video will contain all my spoilery impressions of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. If you do not want to be spoiled on Force Awakens, then please do not watch the rest of this video. This is swim at your own risk in this video. And also, I would urge you if you haven't seen the movie, then just go ahead and wait. You don't need to watch this first. I have my non-spoilery review up if you wanted to know what I think about it. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, then wait. And then you can come back and listen to this when you have seen the movie. All right, so where to start? So with spoilers, I'm going to echo some of the things that I said in my non-spoilery review, that I like the characters a lot. So who am I talking about there? Obviously, Rey, Finn, Poe. Even though one of the things that's interesting about Poe Dameron is that he obviously doesn't have a lot of screen time in this movie. There's a big chunk where he's presumed dead, and turns out one of the interviews with Oscar Isaac, who plays Poe, indicates that originally he was going to actually die in the TIE fighter crash. But they just liked him so much that he just had such great chemistry with Finn, and he was just cool. And so they decided, hey, you know what? Let's bring him back. And I thought that was great because he is awesome. He is great with Finn. He's fun to watch. So bringing him back. Plus, that gives us kind of a trio of our main characters, which I like too. Even though just the nature of how that all works out is that we don't really see him, the bits of him getting rescued from Jakku. But anyway, Finn and Rey and Poe are all great. I think Kylo Ren is an excellent new villain because they're obviously having him, despite him idolizing Darth Vader, he is very different from Vader in every other respect. Like he's, instead of, Vader, his whole deal was he had all of this anger and hatred from the dark side, but he really kept it compressed and focused and channeled, and so he was very cool and just everything was under control with him. Whereas Kylo Ren is like the opposite. He is all over the place. He not only is he explicitly conflicted, like even still feeling the pull of the light side, but he just his anger and his pain are just really out there. Like when he's disappointed, he's just cutting up the computers with his lightsaber. And the other great bit where the stormtroopers hear him thrashing around, and they're just like, let's go the other way. Yeah. So if you watched my non-spoilery video, the character that I mentioned having a surprising lack of screen time was actually Captain Phasma. I thought again, it was just an issue of expectation. Like, if I had gone into this movie not knowing anything about that character, I might have said, she seemed pretty interesting. I wonder why we didn't really get more of her, but I wouldn't have ever thought anything more of it. I think it's just people were so excited by the character design. It's a little bit like with Boba Fett. As cool as Boba Fett kind of came to be thought of, he really doesn't have that much screen time. He doesn't do that much in either of the original trilogy movies that he appears in. But that character took on a life of his own, and I think Captain Phasma sort of did that before the movie even came out. And so the actual stuff with her in this one it was less than I was sort of expecting. And so I hope that we see more of her in the subsequent ones, even though it was not 100% clear how she would have gotten out, because we at least got a name check from Supreme Leader that's like, oh, okay, well, Hux, you take Kylo Ren and bring him back to me. So, even though we don't see them escape, there was an explicit saying of like, yes, that's what's going to happen. But last time we saw Captain Phasma, she presumably was dumped down a garbage chute. So now that said, I imagine we have not seen the last of her. I certainly hope not. Um, in particular, just because it almost feels like if we're not going to see more of her, then you almost like she doesn't need to exist as a character. Like you could just give her bits to any like random Imperial officer. But I don't know. I think she was pretty cool for what she is in there. I hope we see more of her. But yeah, I like Finn and Rey, and then meeting up with Han. Like, there's some bits in this story that are just a little convenient. Like they have a hand waving line to try to justify it, like how Han finds Finn and Rey in the Millennium Falcon so quickly. Yeah, okay. There's apparently a beacon on it. That's why it hasn't been flown. Is because it was, they knew that, like, presumably that anyone looking for it could find it as soon as they got it up in space. Yeah, except that like he was right there. Ugh. Okay, that's a really minor nitpick. Um, but I just did feel like that maybe could have been done a little bit smoother. But I suppose they just wanted to keep the pacing zipping along, which is reasonable. The other thing that was a little bit of a nitpick like that for me was that it was just when they fired the weapon from Starkiller Base and presumably blew up a bunch of planets, it was not clear as like which planets are those? How much do we care? The implication was like they blew up the Republic Senate. Is that what actually happened? How much do we care about that? I don't know. It's not obvious in the movie. Obviously, it's scary that they can do Death Star type damage from really far away. Like, they don't have to be. Yeah, it's just, I think there was not a good sense of how close or how far away all of these places are from each other. We had them able to see the planets being destroyed from the ground of the planet they're on, but they were not one of the ones that got destroyed. And I'm thinking, well, how far away are from the base are they? Like, um, not to mention the fact that when we see the spies report into the First Order and to the Resistance, it's like both sides are able to get their fleet there in a matter of hours. It feels like everything's really close together and it's not clear. Now, all of these are really minor complaints, I think. I'm not really worried about those. I think that one of the other things that's different about having this new story is that there's a lot of stuff that we know about the original trilogy that's not actually in the movies. It's been filled in over time by supplemental materials here and there, and we just haven't really had that yet for the new one. And so there's going to be lots of things, I'm sure, that cover like how does Poe manage to get off Jakku, and what's the difference between what is the actual relationship with the Senate? Like, is the Senate blown up now? Are they gone? What effect is that going to have on the galaxy? Um, Stuff like that. Knowing more about what happened with the Jedi training and when Kylo Ren went bad. Like, that stuff, I'm sure. Well, some of it, I'm sure, is going to come up in following the subsequent movies. No question about it. But then some of it, I'm sure, is going to come up in like comics and the novelization and all of that sort of thing. And so I'm not really worried about some of those sorts of things. Because the moment-to-moment entertainment is what the movie's priority is and what it should be, honestly. And so that's part of why the movie is successful in a way that the prequels weren't, is that the prequels almost were bending over backwards to try to make sure all of that, that we can track it all, even when a lot of it is ultimately probably unimportant and slows the movie way down when it's happening. Um, so some of the like the big plot points, having Kylo Ren turn out to be Han and Leia's son, and the turning to the dark side is what makes Luke run away. Um, I thought all that was really effective, and then also just the, it's sad to lose Han, but boy, there's just, from a storytelling perspective, you have to have someone important die to establish stakes and to make him a bad guy, a bad enough bad guy, Kylo Ren, right? It's like he has to do something that we really hate him for. It's important. And so Han essentially becomes like the Obi-Wan from the original trilogy. We have to have the bad guy established as a legitimate threat, and blowing up 6 planets that we don't really know what's going on with them is less effective. All that really does is show that they have a weapon that needs to be taken out. It doesn't make Kylo Ren himself a bad guy. And so having him be conflicted, but still actually killing Han, um, that's, it's great. Um, and just the way that it all plays out, where Han seems more resigned to they've lost their son forever, but Leia is insisting that he does still have light. We have to try to get him back. We have to try to bring him home, and makes Han promise. And then that's why Han is willing to go try to confront him. And so just the tragedy of having the hope not pay off that way. It all just was really effective for me. And so I guess I could go on and on. I've already talked longer than I was expecting to for this. But yeah, I like it a lot, and I'm excited to have the story continue from here, both in various supplemental materials and also just in the subsequent movies. It's like, this one has only just come out, and I'm like, all right, so when's the next one? All right, so I'll talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes.